Hello everyone, following on from my videos about the chateaux for sale, I thought I'd do a video about alternatives to chateaux. Obviously everyone knows the chateaux. I'll be doing some other videos about manor houses, so but this video here is alternatives to chateaux and manor houses which could take your fancy. Let's get into it. In this video I'm not going to talk about where they are, particularly in this one. I'll break those down into other videos later on. But this is more to present the different styles of houses. The first group of properties I'm going to show you, that let's say they are more chateaux in the sense of the actual defensive, medieval and all that sort of side of things. What other sorts of forms of chateaux do we find? Well, this one, for example, this is what we call a maison fort, which I suppose in a way you call a baby chateau in a way, or a little chateau, or chateauette, I don't know. These are basically fortified houses, usually built by, let's say, poor nobles who couldn't quite afford to build a full chateau, but they could actually become some really nice houses. This one's a full renovation project, presently on the market at, where are we, 270,000 euros. So you can see here, you get all the actual nice features of the old medieval style. You've got a tower there, you see. I don't know if you've got massive big Engelnock fireplaces there, the big beams. Usually not quite as posh as certain chateaux you might see, because obviously if they had enough money to build a chateau they would have done. But certainly very good in the sense they can be very much family sized properties. So well worth looking out for on the market, the maison fort. Next one up from a maison fort is a fortress. Well, believe it or not, in French and English is fortress. There you go. That's an easy one. This particular one is near Périgueux, on the market just 793,000 euros. And you see, very much the medieval thing. It's almost Playmobil medieval chateau time. But certainly some nice features in there, but you do actually have this more defensive structure to it, which once renovated could be really nice, but there's a lot of work on there. But don't forget, a lot of the rooms will be quite dark once you're finished. That certainly looks like a great project if someone's into it. Enclosed courtyard like that. Ooh, I could quite fancy that if I had minions. But I haven't, so I won't. Not all fortresses are as big. This one's in near Besançon, on the market at 525,000. You see, it's more like, well, you don't necessarily think it's a chateau, you probably think it's a manor house, but it's actually a fortress. But from different angles, it's quite large. And you've still got all the features inside. You've got the paved floors, the big Engelnock fireplaces, the beam ceilings. Not too sure what's happening with the staircase here, but certainly interesting. Stone spiral staircase there. This one's actually part renovated by the looks of it. And so yes, like I said, another option to add to your list are fortresses. Following on from that one, we move on to what the French call a commanderie, which, to be honest, I haven't actually found a translation of it. It's for commander's house, but there you go. The commanderie are usually linked to the Templar organisation, and the commanderies, I'm not sure how you would class them. They're almost like fortified medieval manor houses, I suppose. But certainly always has some interesting properties there. Oh, what's happened to this one? Why it's just shrunk down there, I don't know. So look, this is actually a big prestige agency, so they've only got like 5 photos for you. There you go. But certainly interesting property. 11 rooms, 580 metres square. This one's in Villefranche-de-Roch, I think it is. Ragu. I don't know. I think that's pretty right down south anyhow. And I can't see the price on here, but that sounds about right for these people. And any price on there? No, no price. There you go. Guess. And like I said, that's the commanderie. Following on from the commanderie, we actually have what we call the donjon, which literally translates as dungeon. But this is where it gets confusing in France. Dungeons in general in English is like the hole in the ground where you throw people. Apparently in France they always threw them up because they're towers. So I don't know. Whether the dungeon was the place you just put the prisoners, and in England it have to be in the ground, and in France it have to be up in the air. I don't know. I'll have to work that out one day. So going back to the dungeons or the towers, yes, you can buy them. It's actually, would you consider it actually a prestigious home? No, it's more of a historical artefact more than anything. But if you look at this one, for example, you actually got the tower itself, and you've got these two big, well, that big house and that part there as well. So it's almost chateau-like as such. But generally, we have the massive big tower, which, well, you can't do much with. So, but no, they are there. I believe we've got another dungeon here as well. Yeah, this is let's say a lesser dungeon. This one's on the market at 230,000. So 1, 2, 3 floors. Whereas the other tower before was probably something like 6, 7 floors. Although sometimes you'd be surprised for defensive reasons. Sometimes some of the floors would be about 6 metres high. And this one here, you see, can we see inside at all or not? There's the arch. See, it's quite classic for the lower levels in the dungeons. Obviously, they're taking cannon fire and that sort of thing. Okay, so started work here, but it's still quite a bit to go on. New roof though. Oh, medieval graffiti. They love it when they're doing it, don't they? Actually, looking at that, I think there's a bit more than that. Looking at these designs, they almost look like the actual craftsman's designs for doing woodwork or something, or lattice work. But anyhow, there you go. That's what we call the dungeons. And that is the quick tour of, let's say, the medieval castle link side. Moving on from that, in prestige homes in France, we often talk about what we call a demeure. A demeure is like a generic term for a prestigious home. It doesn't really relate to any one sort or another. But englobed in that, there are different styles. The quite classic one we hear about is what we call a hôtel particulier, or a private hotel. In French, a particulier and privé have like an opposite connotation to English. Another thing about the French language. And I suppose the best way to describe a hôtel particulier is a mansion. And I was trying to look up the actual definition to see what the difference was between them. And from what I can tell, the difference between a hôtel particulier and a manor house, for example, where a manor house tends to be isolated in the countryside and actually has a defensive idea about it, a hôtel particulier is actually usually in an urban area. It's more built to actually impress the actual others. So you bring them around to the actual, for your galas and your balls and your dances, while you lived in this big prestigious house. So hôtel particulier, I suppose, it is like the bee's knees when it came to one-upmanship in those days. After that, we have what we call maison de maître, also known as a maison bourgeoise. There's actually a very fine line between the two. Maison de maître tends to be the houses actually, when we talk about maître, it's actually a boss man as such, of some big business. Quite often also we find them the maison de maître which actually belong to international traders, going back to the silk trade or the salt trade or the linen trade and all this sort of thing. Basically, people gone off, made money, come back, built a house as such in their area, but a very posh one for that area. So you often see lots of varying styles on the actual maison de maître and the maison bourgeois. See this one here, for example. Okay, this has been modernised as well afterwards, but if I can actually get Snyder to work on this one, that's probably original tiling in there. Not too sure about that big modern thing. So that one's obviously been fully modernised. Not even too sure what it is. It's in Big Town's indoor swimming pool. And where is that? 5.3 million euros. And that's Van Sen, yeah, something near Paris, so understandable, I suppose. This is another maison de maître. See, slightly different style. but you have all that sort of tiled walls going in, tiled floors going in, the carved liners on the walls, but parquet floors, ornate fireplaces, sculpted plasterwork. Very much the 1850s through to about 1930s, I'd say, and very popular. Usually fairly good size for like a family, without going stupid size wise. Obviously, if you've got a big family, you can go something bigger, obviously. But these are very nice properties to be looking for. So what do you know about this one? This one's, yeah, a bit cheaper. Just under the £1 million mark. And this one's actually in Years, which I'm not too sure where it is, to be honest. But anyhow, 7 rooms, 4 bedrooms, 187 metres square. And that certainly is an interesting looking property. And as you see here, just quickly flick through these, there's plenty of styles of the Maison de Metz, and often this is quite the classical inside shot of one. After that, we move on from the Maison Metz, Maison Bourgeois, onto properties which have like a usage connotation. If you have this one, for example, this is a hunting lodge, €600,000. That's in Finistère, in far end of Bretagne. 226 metres square livable space, good acre of land. It looks like it's surrounded by woodland as well. Looks like it's fully renovated as well. We'll see inside in a minute. It is pretty well fully renovated from what I can see. So yeah, that's the hunting lodge. Quite often hunting lodges are built of brick. I don't know why, especially in Brittany, for example, where the local stone is granite. Very few properties built in brick. It's no doubt to actually, they'd like the same hunting lodge as they saw in someone else's chateau somewhere else in France, something like that. After the actual hunting lodge, or relais de chasse, we have the relais de diligence, or basically a coaching inn. Not great photos on this one, but you get the idea. Right, was that it? And basically these are the old coaching inns, which are usually fairly big because they were old inns, usually quite a few outbuildings because they were coaching inns, and usually fairly close to a big axe. Bit of dropping in there. Big axe being a big road. Saying that though, it might have been a big road 200 years ago, 300 years ago. It might be a dirt track these days, but sometimes they might be on the side of a motorway. So watch out for that. You once again now around there, and worth looking at. Some quite interesting properties there quite often when you find one. Tons of history. Then another one, which even I didn't know when I started doing this video, is a relais de la poste, which I imagine is similar to a relais de diligence, but it's more stables of horses, because the actual post in the old days was taken by horse as opposed to by coach. Didn't have all the Amazon parcels in those days. And so here you go, this is 686, this whereabouts is this in the Ferté Bernard. Right, so this site we have to wait for the actual photos to load up. You can see all fully renovated, quite a bit of character in there. I'm not too sure about that modern oldie feel a lot of people are going for. Well, they actually chalk paint the beams. Me personally, I don't think beams should ever be painted. Oh, nice solar there. What faces what here? Come on. Waterfall, swimming pool, barbecue. Oh, swimming pool. That'll be back in the day. So you see, so that's a relais de la poste. So like I said, I didn't know about those ones before. The next ones we're going on to are properties with let's say a religious connotation. The first thing which comes to mind when talking about houses with a religious connotation would be the presbytery. And yes, we do have presbyteries in France. This is a presbyteries, and we get all sorts of shapes and sizes. Presbyteries the same the world over, I think. And there's one here. Unfortunately, I can't get the photos any bigger on this website. But this one is 280,000, 200 metres square. But certainly a lovely looking old home. I could see myself living there quite easily. Round a log fire, sipping a cognac in the winter, or whiskey, or a glass of red wine. And so yeah, that's one presbytery. I believe I have another presbytery here to show you how styles can change. Here you go. This is a presbytery as well. So once again, it's one of those terms. It's actually you get all sorts. So they're well worth looking at when you see these names come up, because 9 times out of 10 they do actually have a certain standing. Very French feel to this one. I'm just getting an idea. 1830s. It's actually sold. Does it say the price on here or not? It won't say. Unfortunately, doesn't actually say the price it's sold, but certainly a lovely looking place. Next step up from a presbytery. Well, that was the next step up actually, but the next one I'm going to now is what we call a priory, or a priory. And these are getting big, because obviously this is where actually people actually group together for prayers, and so quite big buildings. They're not abbeys, they're not convents. I've got a couple of those coming up in a minute. They're sort of lesser ones, a priory. But once again, there are on the market, and you can see that they've quite pretty well all the standing, all the trimmings of being a formal house. But usually, as you can see in this one, the small chapel is usually quite a dominant place in the whole property. Certainly interesting buildings. Once again, plenty of history. I believe I have another one for you. This is another priory here. What's the price of that one on the first one there? This is Patrick's Bess, and it's on the market at where are we? €980,000 for coming off of 5 acres and 300 metres square of livable space and 450 metres square of outbuildings. And this one here, 545,000, and this is actually in Dizay-sur-Courcillon, which, to be honest, I'm not too sure where that is. It's in the Pays de Loire, okay. And this looks very posh, if you ask me. I don't know if you can actually get anything bigger. No. But it's like a mini chateau almost. Look at that. Okay, that's a church behind there. You don't know the church, you just own this side. I'd almost say class that as a presbytery, to be honest. And next up, when it comes to religious buildings, well, you can't get much more religious than the church itself. And yes, you can actually buy churches in France. It's quite common in England. Personally, I don't know how it works in the States on that side. But in France, I wouldn't say it's common. It's coming in slowly, basically because they don't have use for them or don't have the money to look after them anymore. So certain parties are actually selling them off. Sometimes it's the state, sometimes it's the Catholic, sometimes it's whatever, brotherhood or sisterhood, selling them off. So here you actually have the church itself. Obviously, not the easiest thing to adapt, but if you're looking for something which changes a bit, like I said, if you've been to England, you might have seen some of the transformed churches over there. Like I said, I'm not too sure how it works in America. But anyhow, they can become interesting things, usually more of an artistic side to them, because you do have to do it fairly open plan, and you have to think about levels and split levels. You don't just like do one big floor. You tend to have like mezzanines and that sort of thing. Here's another example of a church for sale in some town, but it's got quite a bit of land with it. In Picardy, that's in northern Normandy. It has an acre and a quarter of land with it, so you've got a nice area here. Looks like a school next door, unfortunately, though. That's a downer. But a fairly modern 1950s church. Which, okay, not everyone's taste, but you can certainly do something original in there. Even if it's a restaurant or something, I don't know. And to give you an idea, I'm going to close this box, there you go. That is on the market at 250,000. How much was that previous one? The previous one was 130,000. So you see, they're not greatly expensive, because admittedly, they're not that easy to transform into homes. But if you've got some sort of project, I don't know, a gallery or restaurant or whatever, then they certainly can be interesting buys.
moving on to something slightly different, very slightly different. This is actually a Protestant temple. It's more of a case to say it's another term for a church. Obviously Protestants had temples and not churches. But this one is actually in the countryside. There's not a great load of photos on this, unfortunately. This one, if I remember properly, is in Normandy, I think it was. No, sorry, completely wrong. It's in the Limousin. Not far from Rochefoucauld. So actually, that's the very edge of Limousin. That's actually getting onto the Charente side. And this is for sale for 130,000 as well. We can't even see the roof on those photos. So has it got a roof? Has it not got a roof? Hard to say. But it looks like it's lost in the jungle, which could be funny. A jungle, woodland, forest. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's 130,000. Could be an interesting purchase as well. Another thing which comes under the church thing is what we call an hostelry. And these were actually sort of, well, I'd say a cross between a church and an inn, which were usually built to actually home the pilgrims on their voyages or walks or trips or whatever it was. But once again, so probably a bit more easy to actually transform into a home than it would be a church, say, or a temple. But they are very much religious minded, you can say, by styles in these. Because obviously when the pilgrims in there, even just stopping for the night, they're going to be praying a bit and all this sort of thing. So they like to be reminded of the churches. And this one here, for example, which is looking pretty renovated, has coming up for 2 hectares of land, 840,000. And that one is situated where, that's in Calvados in Normandy. So interesting property there. Like I said, I will be doing more videos going into detail on each group of properties, like the religious ones, the actual Watermill ones, etc, etc. So don't forget to subscribe again. So moving on from this hostelry, we're going to another quite big one. And this one's a convent. There you go. Big building, usually plenty of history. This one's actually on the edge of a small town. That's down south by the looks of it. Obviously, when it comes to convents and abbeys, they weren't there to impress people. They were there for just to do a job, basically. So usually quite simple, lots of fireplaces. So you need to look at them and see what you think of them. They've certainly got the history in there. But how easy are they to actually make into a home, even if they are big? So this one here, that's 395,000, and that's, like I said, it's down south somewhere. Not a great deal of land with it though, but certainly interesting building. And because we have a convent, I've also got an abbey here as well. Seems logical. Right, here's an abbey renovation project. This one we are looking at another property in Normandy, 500,000 euros, possible 1,400 metres square of livable space. Don't forget, I mentioned in the other videos, if you want to get an idea what it is in square feet, basically times by 10 and add a bit. It's a very rule of thumb that one though. And you actually have over 2.5 acres of land with this one. So I think this is a lovely looking place, this. You even got the old cloisters there as well. And it doesn't look in too bad a order actually, considering it's abandoned. I'd be interested to know more about that one. But I might have to start getting out and try and see some of these when talk to the agents, see if they let me go and see them. They probably won't because I'm an agent as well, if you didn't know. Anyway, so moving on from the convents and abbeys. Oh yes, moving on to the last category in this video. It's what I call, was what everyone calls, mills. In France, there are mills and there's mills. Yeah, the first thing which comes to mind a lot of people is the windmills. I'll put a couple in here just for example. Well, I can hardly cast them as actually prestigious homes to say that, to be honest, because it's just like a little tower, which isn't very big and full of mechanics. Lovely places, tons of history, but you can't really call them homes. I'm not even sure how much they want for this one. there's actually quite a few enthusiasts? There's quite a few enthusiasts who actually will pay good money if it's got all workings and all that. So I'm not sure how much that is. I think I've got another one here for you. There you go, this is a bit of a posh one. And well, I can't tell the price of that one because it's been sold. Look, it's under company by that's Belle de Mer de Bretagne, good friends of mine. And so yeah, you've got sea view there. You've got this little accommodation here. It's basically a 2-bedroom house, nothing more. I believe I have a third one for you. Here you go. This one's with Cappy France. Some lovely photos of trees again. Not very inspiring if you ask me. Sheet metal roof. Okay, it's got the workings in there. Oh, you got a mobile home with it. Oh, nice one. Let's do like a arty photo of a mobile home with a bit of panic going up the ramp. And what's that on the market for then? Please give me a price for this one. At least we know. 135,000. There you go. And that is where. I'll just get to the point and tell me where it is. No, they're not going to tell us where it is. It's in the 85, which is Vendée region, if I remember properly. But anyhow, I'll move on for those because actually, like I said, hardly prestigious homes. Then we move on to Watermills, like this one here. Now, Watermills, there's Watermills and there's Watermills. Watermills can be pretty ugly, if you ask me. Well, certainly I find this one ugly. This basically looks like a stone factory. And saying that, though, there's actually, when we talk about Watermills, there's actually what we in France we talk about a moulin à eau, which is a watermill, and a minoterie. The moulin à eau tends to be the more postcard type one, and the minoterie is more the industrial one. This one seems to be a bit of both, but it doesn't work too well. It doesn't sort of call out to me. Price-wise, we're talking about. Where are we? 587,000 to 7-bed property, sorry. And there you go. Another example of Watermill. This is another example of minoterie. Some lovely photos by the agent here. Which usually have, the actual minoteries themselves aren't very nice to look at. They're usually quite boring. And what is nice is actually the situation they're in. They're usually really nice river valleys, surrounded by woodland and all sorts of things like this. And if you want to do a property which is, let's say, open plan living on a couple of levels, they can be really interesting properties inside. So it's well worth actually having a look at them. If you like the idea of big, like open plan kitchen, diner, whatever, and then another level have an open plan bathroom, possibly separate half to make 2 big open plan bedrooms, whatever. And for example, this one here is 489. You have to be careful sometimes with Watermills, though, is actually check whether it has the water rights or not. Because if you've got any plans about actually generating water off of the actual river, if you haven't got the water rights, you won't get the right to. And even if you have the water rights, it's not 100% sure. But that's worth a whole new video just to explain that. So here's one which is once again a mix of a minoterie and a moulin, but this one works better if you ask me. I can imagine sort of sitting down by the river there. Shame they haven't actually got an autofocus on the camera though. I wish people, when they use the actual phone to make photos, would actually wipe the lens before they take it out. Well, if they take it out of the pocket. Certainly a nice looking place. Like I said, a bit more character and feel to it than that other one. And that one there, let's have a quick look. 583,000 down in Romang. So is that the same one as I saw earlier? What's that bed? about that? That's pretty interesting. This place here does not turn me on at all. This one here I find a lot more interesting. But it's the same property. This is a good agent. I won't go with the other agent. Anyhow, spoke about that one then. Move on. This is a typical example of a Breton mill. This is what I was saying about the granite stonework. Also, one thing you have to be careful when you're going to see a mill is make sure it's not damp. I'll take it that's not the garden. That'll be right down the road, no doubt. And make sure it's not damp. Any stone house, if it's damp, it's damp. You can't do a great deal about it. You can fight it, but you can't win. But you will smell it straight away. So that's one thing to look out for. This property here, this is in North Finisterre, 500,000, and doesn't actually say a great deal more about it. 3 bedrooms, 165 metres square, and coming on for 2 acres of land. 500,000 Finisterre. I'll quickly speed through these other ones. Here you go, that's just another example. I thought it was a great example of a mill. You've got the river on 2 sides of it. I actually know one down near Jocelyn in Brittany, very similar to that, where the river flows right round it and you walk over a bridge to get to it. Which sounds, might not be that practical, but it certainly looks nice. It's a bit overkill on the HDR there on the photos, but c'est la France. Probably a restaurant at some point, by the looks of it. So it's something I want to come back to. I just spotted. Boom, 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 boom. I don't even see that there on this video. Just there. We can see better on this photo. There. Must have a big chunk of wood roots, tree roots, which is all washed, and that probably came down the river and they pulled it out at some point. And this property here, okay, 2.35 million. And that's near Paris, so 26 kilometres away from Paris. Certainly a lovely looking place. Whereas 2.35 million, I don't know the prices up there, so I can't tell you. This one here is 1.4 million, and that's towards Paris as well. But I just want to bring this up because you can see this one. This is actually a watermill. You wouldn't really think about it looking at it, would you? It's more a manor house or some sort of chateau. So certainly a very interesting property here. This is another one. This is further down south. So it's still a watermill. I can't imagine the water came down the hill, literally straight down. That's what these are probably. Not too keen on the decor. But it's down towards Nice and all the bling bling. What price are we on here? Let's go back. 7.95 million. 601 metres square, 20 rooms, 7 bedrooms, 2.1 acres. No neighbours by the looks of it. So if you have 8 million to buy a watermill, well, there you go. If you do, say you sold it, you saw it on my video, and they might give me, I don't know, a free meal or something. Another quick example of a watermill, and now I got a surprise one at the end. Once again, very poor quality photos. Like I said, this is France. All very clean and tidy. Even the bedroom's a bit weird. I think there's a lot of arty people buy mills for some reason, and it shows in the renovation afterwards. I can say that because my dad was a painter and my mum was a writer. And that is kind of for 2 million, and that's in Chenon in 16 in Charente, so not very close to Paris. That's to know more about it. That price does seem a bit expensive for what it is. Now, as I said, saved one for the end, which kind of combines lots of features. How about a medieval fortified water mill? Yes, it exists. There you go. Boom. You've got the lock next door there. It's inside. So, well, I wouldn't say perfectly livable, but very livable. And that is a property down Villeneuve-sur-Lot, in the Lot-et-Garonne, I think it is, Villeneuve-sur-Lot, or certainly down that way. €590,000, fortified mill, 280 metre square livable space, 260 metre square land, which I imagine probably what it's sitting on. Certainly an interesting one. You need to check out things about parking and mains, drainage and all that sort of thing, see how it works. But certainly an interesting property and a real eye turner. So there you have it, a quick roundup of chateau alternatives. If you want something a bit different, I will do some more videos delving into each group of properties there to give you some more examples, prices and areas and all this sort of thing. So stay tuned, and if you haven't got the message already, click that subscribe button. Bye.